I don't care whether you buy Bitcoin. It doesn't make sense to mine with energy coming from an energy outlet in a German household. You need to look for renewable energy, and by design somehow. With the halving happening now in April, the block rewards for the miners will halve from 6.25 to 3.125. So that means that the energy used by the miners has to be cheaper and even more renewable. So it forces the miners and the network to be more green. I earned it, I spend it every month. My bank account was empty. Since I'm in Bitcoin, I'm saving.
I always wonder how should I start my podcast, and there are so many different topics I want to go into there. But I saw one tweet of yours where you said about the halving. So, and I think this episode will air in like 2-3 weeks. So it will be right around before we get into the halving. So my question is for you, like, what do you expect before the halving, after the halving, in the next coming years? The halving having an impact on Bitcoin, or does it even have an impact?
Yeah, they would have to separate in two things. Impact in Bitcoin in terms of value in fiat, or impact in Bitcoin in what happens with the Bitcoin through the halving event. So halving the output, the supply of Bitcoin, this is the one hand, but I think your question goes more in the direction of value of Bitcoin in fiat. So how would the development be in this direction? Yeah, I think what I see. So I'm in Bitcoin more or less since 2014, and since maybe 2018, I would say 19, I spent several hours per day in the Bitcoin rabbit hole. And I really try to understand the halving cycles in the past. And you see the Bitcoin curve, and you put in some rings there, typical development. And usually a little bit before the halving, the value increases, and afterwards there is the bull run. And I'm not sure for this halving cycle in April whether the effect of the halving, the impact on Bitcoin will be the same as in the past. I expected it would be more flat, as it's just going from 6.25 to 3.125 Bitcoin with every new block. But with all the let's say events in the environment of Bitcoin, like the ETFs, I'm not sure. So the demand is enormous, and I see this limited supply through the halving will probably lead to really bull run. After, I would say, maybe from middle of April on. And speaking in terms of my future expectations, so many people, I'm in contact with many people talking about Bitcoin. I try to always tease and not push people to Bitcoin, but give them the opportunity to say, hey, I see you have something to do with Bitcoin. What do you think about this and that? And then many people ask me, what would you expect, Larry? How would the development be in terms of pricing for the next time? And then I would say my estimate is something like until Q1, Q2, so first half of 2025, we will see a really heavy bull run. I would expect something like, I'm very sure there will not be a pushback until spring next year, I would say. So I expect some minor dips, but in general, it will be really a bull market now. We are already in the bull market, so it's more the bull run what I expect now.
And I see it every cycle. There's always this talks of a super cycle.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I feel like it always comes up before the halving. But I think it might actually happen this time. We never had an all-time high before the halving. We have the Bitcoin ETF, like we have the strongest demand ever. But you could see this before every halving. Do you see something ever happening with the super cycle, especially when the halving has a lower and lower impact over time? Is there one point where these crazy crashes and these 4-year cycles, this really predictable cycle of Bitcoin just don't continue at all in the future?
No, I don't think it will be more or less flat again. at any time. I see an increase through things coming in the market. So we had the ETFs being approved in January 11th. So we see that there is a huge inflow into Bitcoin. And of course, we have some outflows, Grayscale, the miners are selling Bitcoin to be prepared for the halving and to be able to invest. But I think hearing what BlackRock and Fidelity and all the ETF providers tell about their expectations in market, they are talking about a three-digit number of millions dollars to be invested in Bitcoin until the next something like 3 years. So I believe that this will be a very long-term bull market, and we have several other things in front of us, like the FASB, which is the new accounting rule for companies in US, which will be enabled end of the year. So that will help companies to invest in Bitcoin better, as they can show it more in their
balance sheet.
Yeah, balance sheet. Thank you. That was the word I was looking for. The balance sheet. So with a real word and real value, and not with something like the deepest value over the last time they owned it. That will be an advantage. And there's just some advisors now selling Bitcoin really. So the smaller ones will start in April, May timeframe. And there is a huge market that will be addressed over the next weeks. And I don't see why that should stop. Of course, there will be people selling Bitcoin in the ETFs again, but others will buy. So I don't think it will go flat at any time anymore. So I see for the next 3, 4, 5 years, and then it's infinite, more or less. As then one day we have something like a hyper Bitcoinization. What I don't mean really. So it would be the perfect world. We use Bitcoin for payments. But I see it as an asset, and many people will invest in this asset, and it's a unique asset over the next decade and infinite.
Yeah, and what people don't know about you, you are one of the best orange pillars, I think, and it's like because like usually when people get a lot of other people to invest in Bitcoin or orange pill and educate people on Bitcoin, like really big numbers, they're like influencers, they have a huge following, they have like 100,000 followers. Of course, they have a lot of people coming into Bitcoin because they have content and they can like automate the process. But I think you're doing a really good job in educating people around you, and you talk with some numbers like, oh, you have so many people already orange pilled along the way, which is amazing for me. I don't get to those numbers, I think. Maybe indirectly, but not directly. What did you learn with educating people? What did you learn how can we as Bitcoiners get better in educating people about Bitcoin?
Yeah, what I learned, of course, maybe you know it as well, as once you're on the Bitcoin rabbit hole, you do want to convince everyone. But I'm more careful. I'm not too pushy in terms of talking to people. So I wear some orange Bitcoin shoes with the Bitcoin logo. I have some shirts where I show something, and I have stickers on my laptop from the company, and to give the people a chance to ask me. So not, hey, everyone, here's Larry, let's talk about Bitcoin. And then they, oh, no, I'm afraid, and I don't want to do this. And I learned that it's better to do it not too aggressively. Really, give people the opportunity to open the door, say, hey, I heard this about Bitcoin, and I heard that, and can you help me understanding things better? And this is a door opener, and I orange pills many people so far. And what means orange pilling? So as I mentioned, I see 3 scenarios. So the people who understand Bitcoin and as a tool for freedom, for hope. So the thing like fix the money, fix the world, really. It's a tool for freedom. This is the most important aspect for me. Then there are people who say, yeah, I understand Bitcoin and I try to buy a small amount, maybe some DCA, and investing, I don't know, 50 euro per month or something like that. And then there are people who invest heavily. So I convinced several people, even people who were really negative about Bitcoin. It will be forbidden and they will put a lot of tax on it and it has no chance and the network will be hacked. It's not secure. It's not decentralized, whatever. And most of them really are owning more than 10 Bitcoin today. So And so my strategy is being careful, and people in my private network know me also in the company. I have a huge network. I work in IoT, in AI, and you need a lot of partners and people to work with in this professional environment. And also people use the opportunity to talk to me there. And one of the board of directors in our company asked me to hold a speech in front of the whole company about Bitcoin. So as there are many people interested, so they see me on the floor and say, "Hey, Larry, yeah, I see a Bitcoin logo in your shirt, and I wanted to ask something." And it really comes together somehow. And people ask me, "Hey, I was talking to some friends, and we would like to invite you, Larry, to hold a speech some evening, and I can invite 20, 30 people." And then I talk to 20, 30 people. In the meantime, I have a presentation with some videos so that they better understand. And I plan something like at least 2 hours. So it's 90 minutes presentation, but it's more the dialogue, which is very important. Let people ask questions to better understand. And after doing a speech in front of 20, 30 people, or independent also from the number, I would say something like 10, 20% of the people discussing with me, they come back later, something like a week or 3 months later, and ask, "Hey, Larry, that was really interesting. I learned a lot. I have some additional questions. Can we discuss? And can you help me setting up a wallet? How can I invest? How can I get some Bitcoins? How can I onboard to the system?" And then I talk about really what kind of software wallet, how to easily buy Bitcoin, how to store in a hardware wallet the safest way, so that they really have to learn about how to handle their seeds and all this stuff.
Amazing. And what do you see as like people having hurdles, like when you see so many people and they ask you questions? So that, like first of all, I would love to see all those videos. Like I would love for you to actually record those sessions, what you talk, and also the session with the company. It would be really, really cool. I think if you provide those videos online, I think people would love it.
Good idea.
But what do you see as like common hurdles that people have to come over? Like, and this is something I do a lot on the podcast, because I have people from India on, I have people from Germany on, I have people from Africa on, and from El Salvador, I have a lot of people on. And people have different hurdles in different countries that they have to overcome. Like in El Salvador, they now think that Bitcoin is from the government, because Nayib Bukele pushes Bitcoin down. So, so there is different hurdles people have to overcome in order to understand Bitcoin. What are the most common questions or hurdles you see?
Yeah, it's really a very broad variety of hurdles and questions, as you say. I have many people, so it's more my age or older. They don't trust the economics and the fiat system, or even other asset classes anymore. So they are really hesitative what to do with their money. And some of them have a lot of money, or they're just selling some real estate and say what to do with the money. I don't trust saving it in fiat money and let it grab by inflation, or I don't trust in real estate anymore, and I'm not sure about stock markets and the economy in total. What can I do? So this is the one aspect: what to do with my money in a safe way. And then every people, not only these people, everyone has to understand about how secure is Bitcoin. I'm not talking about the value development. It's more about, is it really secure? Can it be confiscated? Is it somehow manipulative? Are there chances for someone in the world to grab their money? And I think this is a topic for all the people in the world. And Bitcoin is a very open system. Everyone can jump in and just use Bitcoin without asking anyone, without having a third party included in between. And this is one aspect, the question. So they really have to understand that it's secure. And I tell them that it's secure as long as you are careful with your seed and you understand Bitcoin. This is why I hold these speeches and I talk to them. And really my intention is to make them understand what is Bitcoin, and with not all the aspects, but many aspects. You know, there are so many aspects around Bitcoin. You can learn about ethics and cryptography and physics and whatever. But so that they have an understanding about Bitcoin, so that they feel secure that this is a good asset to store their value, whatever this is, into Bitcoin, and how to handle it. So this is the one. I had a discussion with one of our board members in the company yesterday, and he said, I'm following Bitcoin now and tracking the value, and it doubled within the last some weeks. And I said, yes, but it's used by so many criminals. I said, yeah, this is what people hear and what people should hear if you hear our government and ECB and politicians and banks, they are not a friend of Bitcoin, of course. It's competition somehow. And they talk about it's used by criminals, it consumes a lot of energy. But back to this criminals aspect, I told them, hey, we have companies tracking really the use. And of course, they have to work with some assumptions. But the criminal use of Bitcoin is, the last period was something like 0.34%. So it's much more criminal activities done with the dollar and the euro or other cryptocurrencies. And I told him, by the way, it's not a good idea to do some money laundering or criminal activities with Bitcoin, as it's not anonymous. So you can track all the activities in the blockchain since 15 years, by the way. And if there is one point where it's connected with your identity, then they have you. So, this is also the reason why some criminals try working with Bitcoin doing bad business, but they also get away from it as they understand, oops, that's not really anonymous, and they will get us in the end. So that's another aspect, criminal use. The other one is consumption of energy. So it uses energy like Austria, like Netherlands, like Italy, something like whole countries, or pools of water for every transaction, whatever you hear. But this is also something where I say, yes, that's true. Of course, Bitcoin uses energy. All the other currencies, by the way, also use energy, but the energy is what makes Bitcoin secure. So Bitcoin is the only system where we have a closed system, a really decentralized system without any engagement from third party or from outside. Even the new Bitcoins are generated inside the system. With finding a block, there is a new supply of some Bitcoins for the miners getting into the market. But we know the path for the new supply for the next 120 years until the last Bitcoin will be mined. So this is crystal clear. And we have the proof of work, which is the differentiator for Bitcoin against every other cryptocurrency, as this is what needs the energy. So the miners, of course, they need the energy. But in the end, you cannot just change the blockchain. So you cannot say, hey, my blockchain is the longer one. It's valid now. And this is not working with Bitcoin. So the proof of work is what secures the Bitcoin, what makes it unique. And also something, what people are interested, when I tell the story about Satoshi Nakamoto, publishing the white paper in end of 2008. And I'm not sure, to be honest, personally, whether he already thought about this aspect or it happens now by accident. So if you want to be a miner, it's not worth mining if you have an energy price above 7, 8, 9 cents per kilowatt. So it doesn't make sense to mine with energy coming from an energy outlet in a German household. That's just stupid. And so you need to look for renewable energy or even over energy. So you have some unused energy you can use. So, and by design, somehow, by accident or by plan, I don't know. This is the aspect, I'm not sure. And with the halving happening now in April, 19th or 20th of April, as it looks today, the block rewards for the miners will halve from 6.25 to 3.125. So that means that the energy used by the miners has to be even cheaper and even more renewable. So it forces the miners and the network to be more green. And it's one of the greenest networks anyway already today in the market. If you see energy consumption, and including all the network for BEV, for battery electric vehicle, I'm a Tesla driver, I'm a fan, and I know they are very efficient as a car. But if you also see the aspect of the production and of the energy, then it's probably not that green anymore in some cases. And Bitcoin is forced to be green, and it's already very green. So this is another aspect. I would say that's the three most important. Security, can I securely invest in Bitcoin? Criminal use and energy consumption. This is the main objectives.
Yeah, and I think it's natural for such a disruptive innovation as Bitcoin to bring some hurdles, some FUD along the line. We see this old comics around the internet is being just a FUD and fade away. We're seeing even from older where there was comics against electricity. So there's always, when there's something completely changing a system, there will be most people really skeptical. This is also like, I think, not bad as human beings, which is also like we try to stay stable. We're not trying to change too much. But then it's the thing that we have to change in increments. And I think Bitcoin is the next increment we need to have as a base layer, but it's completely normal. And in the beginning, I was always frustrated with orange pilling people. I was like, why don't get it? Like, what's wrong with you? But in the more time I spent orange pilling people, the more time I spend time also with Bitcoiners and exchanging with their orange pilling stories. I learned that you have to give them time. It's not something it accumulates over time. I'm always like on every social media platform, I'm with my clear name there, and it's really clear that I'm a Bitcoiner. It's like there's no confusion with that. And people also in my personal life know about that. So I switched completely off my orange pilling offensive. I'm only waiting for people to ask me stuff. And I sometimes could be even a little bit more offensive. I could be like a little bit more provoking and conversation. But I'm intentionally not doing that because I'm letting my Bitcoin energy out on the internet and hoping people come in real life. And it works fine because in the bear market, a few people come, and in the bull market, more people come. Obviously, the topic is more there because with number graph technology, the best marketing tool of Bitcoin still, people come in. And it's good to just wait and see who's coming. But still make it clear you can come to me because I'm a Bitcoiner. And when Bitcoin comes up in a conversation and there's some FUD around the family table, then you can say, but it's like that. It's like, and it's also when I see the family tables over the years, it's like, oh, there are now 2 more Bitcoiners in this 30 people round. Oh, there's now 2 more. Like 4 years ago, it was just me. I'm the crazy one. Now we have 3 people. Now we have 5. Soon there will be 2 people that don't have Bitcoin, and they will be the crazy ones.
Yeah, same here. I've tried to be passive, as I mentioned, just wearing some logos and a sticker on my Tesla. And at the back, there's a sticker which is Bitcoin accepted here. Many people watching me, hey, great. Or I wear sweatshirts. And if I enter a restaurant, I had a day, maybe 3 months ago, I was in 2 restaurants for lunch. And the waiter said, hey, do you know a little bit more about Bitcoin? I say, yes. You want to talk? Yes. Yeah, we want to use Bitcoin in our restaurant.
Oh.
And in the evening, I was out for dinner. Same story. The waiter and even the boss of the restaurant came and said, hey, can you help us understand how we as a restaurant can use Bitcoin? Or in my environment here, my friends, colleagues, people know, and they are talking, hey, did you hear that Larry knows something about Bitcoin and he's doing speeches? And as you mentioned also, I'm careful, and I know I had people sitting in my speeches for 2 hours plus 3 times. They went off the first day and said, yeah, it was great. Then they even wrote me a message or called me and said, hey, I didn't understand really this, and I have an additional question. Can I ask? Yes, of course. I'm always there to orange pill and help. And then they came to the second speech, and then they are on the third one. And then 3 months later, they say, hey, Larry, I think now I got it, and can you help me being onboarded and how I can buy Bitcoins? And then I go to the people, and if it's not too far away, otherwise, I send them some kind of instructions on a messenger or something like that. And But usually I really go to their apartment, visit them and say, hey, let's do it together. So, and I show you some things and I show it on my mobile phone and bring my BitBox as a hardware wallet to really make them understand how it's best way handled in a practical way. Also, really being the trusted advisor, not just doing a speech. And I also tell them, I don't care whether you buy Bitcoin. I'm happy if you understand a little bit of Bitcoin. And I am in Bitcoin now for years, really spending thousands of hours. And I also feel like being a beginner anymore. I even did my certified Bitcoin professional certification in October timeframe, which was really a lot of huge learning also as well. But I still feel I'm a beginner. Every day I learn a lot more.
Yeah, it's the same feeling I had when I started the podcast, when people are coming onto my podcast and they have like a really specific knowledge about the really deep rabbit hole in Bitcoin. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, I don't understand anything here. And I'm learning Bitcoin for so long. And it humbles you every time you speak with other Bitcoiners, when you learn about new stuff. And it's fascinating for me. Yeah.
Yeah.
One question for the last question to the orange pillings. Do you think self-custody will be mainstream? Do you think we have a mainstream adoption of self-custody, or will the most people use some app, some layer on top of some Bitcoin ETF, and people don't use custody?
I hope and I fight for self-custody, of course. As Bitcoiners, we do and we push for self-custody. And I see a huge increase in this area. But on the other hand, I see with these ETFs, ETPs, ETNs, all the possibilities for investing in Bitcoin or handling Bitcoin on exchanges. I also see this area growing very fast. So I'm not sure. So the self-custody will be heavily increasing, but I also see the other way growing. And also, I had a discussion yesterday with a person I know quite well, and he asked, I watched this Bitcoin now for some months, and I see it doubled in value in compared to fiat money. As we always say, one Bitcoin is one Bitcoin, we don't care. But he watched the value increase in euros and dollars, and he was interested in quickly jump in, and he said, how can I rapidly go and get into Bitcoin? And his first question was, Larry, what do you think? Are we at the end now? So it doubled now, and it has to be the end in terms of increasing value for Bitcoin. I said, no. I believe that we probably will triple, quadruple by early next year. I don't be an advisor for financial things. I always tell them, but a very conservative personal view is that we will at least triple until early next year in terms of dollars. And then I also said, hey, maybe if you really want to get in quickly, do you have something like a Binance, Trade Republic? eToro is not allowed to handle Bitcoin anymore since early this year. But if you have something like that, just buy Bitcoin and then you can transfer it to your wallet. You should transfer. And always, I tell all people, if you buy it on an exchange, you're not the owner, not your keys, not your coins, as we say as Bitcoiners. And I always push them. You can buy it there, but please quickly put it on your wallet and keep your 12, 24 seed words and have it on your own in self-custody.
Yeah,
but I see both markets growing heavily, really. And with the ETFs, the institutional investors, the pension funds would will come. That's such a huge volume. So this will also for sure increase.
Yeah, and you always have to, how do I say that? You said before that you are a big fan also of electric car, and I see a lot of different Bitcoiners having on Bitcoin so many different stands. Like I see, for example, Bitcoiners being completely carnivore, only eating meat, and then there's Bitcoiners that are completely vegan. But they are sitting together on one table and they have one view of the world with Bitcoin, but they have on another topic completely different views. Then there's also electric cars, where you said you're a big fan of it. But then there's, I think, who said it? Seiferdin, I think, is not a big fan of electric cars.
Mark Friedrich is not a fan. Yeah.
Mark Friedrich, yes, Mark Friedrich also. How do you see those different, first of all, I think Bitcoin in general is such a broad topic and such fundamental to us, to our lives, that of course there will be people that don't think the same. Like this will completely be natural because there are people that have different views of the world because it's such a big thing. How do you see this electric cars? Are electric cars fiat or Bitcoin? How do you view those kind of topics also with food going into like, yeah, can there be something more fiat or Bitcoin in terms of electric cars or in terms of vegan food or carnivore food?
Yes, I'm a huge fan of electric cars and driving Tesla. I have my third Tesla now, driving Tesla for 5 years and over 400,000 kilometers on Tesla. My first Tesla was 200,000 kilometers in 2 years. So I'm driving a lot, as you see.
Wow.
And if you drive electric, I love electric cars, but if you drive so much, then Tesla is the only option, as you have the superchargers on top of the infrastructure for charging everyone else has. And they are between 10 and 100 kilometers along the highway. So there's a huge network. So it's easy to drive a Tesla. I have days where I drive 1,500 kilometers per day. And that's not a problem anymore. So, and it's very comfortable. It's silent. I love it. And these Teslas, they are fun driving them. So I always say that people don't do a test drive with a Tesla. It's highly addictive. You don't want another car. No, don't do it. Simply, it's like Bitcoin. If you're hooked, you're hooked, and you will not go back. And I also know people who say, "Oh, these electric cars, I have range anxiety, and I don't believe this technology will survive." And also, we have these political rules where I think Europe or some countries in Europe will not allow combustion cars anymore, and from 2030 or 35 on. I think that's a good idea. So the market will find the best way, and I'm convinced electric cars will survive. There will be at least one model for mobility in the future. Also, they offer a lot of advantages in terms of using the technology and autonomous driving. It's better if you have I would say an iPhone on wheels, really designed from the scratch as some piece of technology which is also able to drive. This is what I enjoy in a Tesla. But I know there are different people with different opinions, and I'm a fan of discussing also in a very constructive way, and the personal opinion must not be aligned. It's perfect for me. I have discussions with people about many being vegan, being BEV driver, or even about some political aspects. But the foundation, you used the word, the foundation is Bitcoin. If you have Bitcoiners, you can talk about everything, and these people are really okay in every aspect. I meet people on meetups, I meet people, colleagues, whatever, and everyone who at least knows a little bit about Bitcoin. I never met some really strange people. I have some strange discussion, I would say, on Twitter with some Bitcoiners where I know I really like their posts about Bitcoin. So we are perfectly aligned. But then we are really pushing each other for some political topics, and sometimes I think that's a little bit hard to do it remote on Twitter or in a messenger or so, on Telegram or whatever, Signal. I'm a fan of doing this really face to face and doing the discussions. But back to the topic, the Bitcoiners are always okay, and you can also discuss controversial topics with Bitcoiners and don't having any problem.
21 Bitcoin is Bitcoin only from day one, and they teach and preach self-custody. This is my go-to exchange when someone asks me, oh, where can I buy my Bitcoin from? This is the easiest entry for Bitcoiners. And if you want lower fees, plus at the same time support this podcast, use code Robin and click the link in the description. And I think this is so different to the Bitcoin community, and I often wonder, is it because we're early and we're really curious? Or is it because Bitcoin, when there's trust back again in our base layer, in our money, changes something in people so that people also are okay with different opinions? I have no clue to this answer. I often ask it. I often discuss it on the podcast. I have no clue if we are just early and in a special group, and that's why we have this amazing feeling in the community, or Bitcoin actually changes something in the society.
I think it's both. As we are all early adopters, everyone who is in Bitcoin after it's 15 years, it sounds a lot, but it's very, very early. If you think we have gold since more than 5,000 years, we have fiat money for thousands of years, more or less, in terms of whatever this is, copper or our today's paper money. So we are early adopters, and our mindset, I think, being an early adopter requires an open mindset somehow. So that means, and it's not only about understanding Bitcoin, using the internet, whatever, driving an electric car, using new technology, or setting up a node, a Bitcoin node. I have a node, I have two nerd miners here. So it's always also something I use in my presentations and to show it to people and talk about it and make them understand what it is about. So we have a different mindset, I think, and this is by nature some openness and creativity on the one hand. On the other hand, I think once people understand Bitcoin, at least a little bit, they understand the aspect of independence, decentralization, security, and all this stuff, and which also leads to another kind of mindset, which has to be a little bit an open one. And of course, we Bitcoiners, after years, I also try to find a weakness in the Bitcoin system, in the network every day. So I think about, hey, all of people, friends ask me, what do you think about this aspect? Can the network be hijacked? Could there be a 51% attack on it or something? And I really think about it every day again. And if you think like that, you understood the aspect of freedom and independency and decentralization. And then is also something which changes mind. And to be honest, I never saved money in my past. I spent it. I earned it. I spent it every month. My bank account was empty. Since I'm in Bitcoin, I'm saving Bitcoin, not money. So I do I stack every Satoshi I can, and I'm saving money, and it's feeling good, and it changes the mindset completely. So I think this leads to what we know as the Bitcoin, I would say, community spirit and mindset. It's a different spirit. But I think these both aspects could lead to this. I don't have the perfect answer, but that's my feeling about it.
I also think like Bitcoin is like money is so fundamental to our lives because it's 50% of each human transaction to it. Like there's always like something you trade and there's some money going around. So if this fundamental base layer of our human beings, of our transactions, of our interactions is revolutionizing, it also will change something in society. I'm just not sure how much or how deep the thing will be, because also Bitcoiners not change just because they have Bitcoin. They also change because they have the exposure to the other Bitcoiners and they are getting to know the other Bitcoiners. They're going on meetups and changing the environment is also changing yourself. So this is something I'm really looking forward to, like come back in 20 years, watch the podcast from 20 years and see how it turned out.
Yeah. And after already experiencing the hyper-Bitcoinization, what I think would be a huge aspect for Bitcoin is Bitcoin being used for payments in a daily manner. So, but we are in a bull market. So since early last year already. So we are in a bull market for, I would say, more than a year, and the bull run will come. And in bull markets, and especially in times of bull run, you have positive reporting in the press. In politics, okay, in EU we have some strange regulations on the way right now, but in general, new businesses occur, and new businesses are created during bull markets. So people invest in Bitcoin, and what will be the results of new business created in a bull market or whatever around Bitcoin? Typically, it happens in a bull market. New business always will increase the numbers of Bitcoin users. And we have technologies like Arc or like Lightning. So we have payments layers for Bitcoins. And also the shops will accept more Bitcoin. So what I do, talking to people also in a restaurant, I'm asked, or people are seeing the sticker on my car, they say, hey, how can I get into Bitcoin as a seller? And you have no chargeback risk. So there are many aspects. It's quick, it's cheap, it's good for sellers, but also for customers. You don't have a third party in between. You don't have to have any fees, not more than needed. And Lightning is lightning fast and nearly free of charge. And it's also somehow some kind of anonymous. To be careful with this wording. But yeah, I have my Lightning node, and I feel I have my bank at home, and I'm part of the network. I have the blockchain on my node, and this is a great feeling of freedom and independency. And also, it sets us up for the future, using Bitcoin not just as a store of value, also as a medium of exchange. Really use it for payments. And the hardcore Bitcoiners, they are hodlers, they buy the Bitcoins and never give it away. They sit on it and wouldn't spend any, but I'm using it heavily. So if I track my transactions in my Bitcoin app or in my node, I have hundreds of transactions, and I try to pay with Bitcoin whenever possible. I look for restaurants and for shops where I can pay with Bitcoin. But what I do, I'm also a hodler, and I do spend and replace. Replace ideally before spending. But if I buy a coffee, the Bitcoin forum in Munich where we met face to face a year ago or so, I bought a coffee for some Satoshi, so I'm not replacing this. But if it's a bigger account, I spend and replace just to make people, or let people watch. Hey, I now pay with Lightning or Bitcoin on chain is the second choice. But people see, hey, you can pay and it's Lightning fast and it's working. Hey, cool. How can I do this? Can you install this app to me? And yeah, I think this is also dope, and this will be the future, and that will help for Bitcoin adoption and hyper Bitcoinization. And I hope this comes soon, but I think, as you said, maybe in 10, 20 years, we are in a world like this.
Yeah, I'm definitely sure that we are coming to a world like this. The only thing I'm worried about is not about Bitcoin. I'm only a little bit, and you teased it a little bit. I'm worried about Europe. I'm worried about countries or nations not adopting it. They are beautiful, like Austria. I love Austria. I love the nature here. I also love Germany, and I would hate to move somewhere else. But honestly, if there is some regulation, I'm really not sure what's the future holding like with Bitcoin and what they are doing now, because I know they can only do it short term or medium term, but they can really hurt the economy and really hurt the Bitcoin adoption in the country. And this will just drive people outside of Austria, outside of Europe. How do you see, like we already see it, like in Nigeria, we have like 30% adoption. What do we have in Austria and Germany? 5%, 6% maybe, hard to say. And then we even have with Switzerland a good comparison, because it's so comparable with the people to Austria and Germany. In Switzerland, we have really good regulations. You can pay taxes. I had Beach Bitcoin on a company in Switzerland. They don't even have a bank account. I don't know if this is possible in Austria or Germany, a company without a bank account. But how do you see this whole game theory playing out? Does Europe has a chance to be a hub for Bitcoin in the next years?
Yeah, I'm also worried about this, but not too much worried, to be honest. As I see, we have Mika, which was confirmed in May last year, will be active end of this year, early 2025, which is a EU regulation, which I think it's not too bad. So I don't plan to do any criminal activities, and in Germany, we have the chance to not pay taxes. I know in Austria, they changed the laws in 1.5 years ago. If we keep hold Bitcoin for more than a year, we don't have to pay taxes. We don't even have to declare. But this is no financial advice. I'm not a tax advisor also. But I see the regulations and what's coming now in Europe, what seems to come in 2026, 2027, that will damage us as a country in terms of, it's EU, it's not Germany, another country, it's a region, as a territory. But this is a huge disadvantage compared to the rest of the world, especially compared to the US, where they're opening and reducing regulations, and even using Bitcoin miners for supporting the energy grid. And so they're really opening up everything, while Europe is restricting as much as they can. But so most of these things are not hitting us as wallet owners for the moment. I see there are some parties interested in really controlling everything. But I'm always maybe too positive sometimes, but I hope that they will row back and they will understand that this is not a way to be successful as EU compared to the world. So it's really a huge disadvantage, and I hope that someone will understand this and have enough power to put it in the trash again.
This is what I see generally with Bitcoiners. They are really hopeful and they're really positive on the future. They are cautious with when it comes to regulation, when it comes to all this stuff. But because they are cautious, they can be really hopeful because they know they are safe. They have Bitcoin, they have the measurements in place.
Right.
What I'm curious about, and I should have asked it way earlier, how did you actually discover Bitcoin? Who orange pill? The orange pillar.
Wow. Yeah, to be honest, I don't really remember. I read about Bitcoin. I was curious, and I know several people having Bitcoin many years ago. My son had thousands of Bitcoin years ago, but he also sold it later on. He just used it in the darknet to buy some strange stuff. He told me he's 30 years old now, and he told me maybe a year ago, "Hey, Dad, I just wanted to buy this and that in the darknet." And we had some Bitcoin, but he also invested maybe what was it 6-7 years ago? He put €6,000 together with a friend and bought Bitcoin, and then they had 100,000. Within less than a year. The problem was they wanted to sell and they were afraid of the taxes and they didn't sell, and they changed to some alternative coins is the proper word for a podcast, and they lost a lot. So they also won some money, but yeah. So I was in contact with several people using Bitcoin in the past and reading books early, and I don't know who. There was no person and who was responsible to orange pill me. So I went to be a fan over the years and always deeper. And as I mentioned, so since maybe 2018, I'm spending hours per day in Bitcoin, reading every book and hearing many podcasts like your YouTube channel, tracking you on Twitter. I really can suggest you as a source of information about Bitcoin in every aspect. I really love this. And yeah, in the meantime, we have some channels, also German language, and yours is happy. I'm very happy to have an international channel as well to really address. One of the most fascinating books for me was Alex Gladstein, Bitcoin, the Trojan Horse for Freedom. I don't know whether this is really the English title. I heard is a little bit different. In German, it's Das Trojanische Pferd der Freiheit. And this is a really great book in covering all the aspects of the world, the different countries, and what happens there. I learned a lot about dictatorship. What could I do as a dictator in a specific situation with countries or people in a country, especially with the poor people, making me richer and richer. And yeah, I know this Bitcoin is an international topic. It's not a regional or a country-specific topic. And this is good and this is great. And this is one of the advantages of Bitcoin. Is some government or institution or whatever tries to switch off or not disallowing to use Bitcoin, then the rest of the world will work. And even if they for forbidding the mining, there will be some small mining farms, I don't know, in Nigeria, in Ethiopia, in, I don't know, on an island using free energy from whatever, water power. And they will continue the network. And this is also by design from Satoshi Nakamoto in the network. Whenever even a huge part of the network is switched off, the rest will work. And it's even more interesting for the remaining miners to continue the work. So miners will put their old hardware out of their garage and reactivate them, and they earn more money. So it's really exciting what Bitcoin is by design and what it brings in terms of freedom and security and resilience. It's also good.
I mean, the best example for that was, I think, in 2021 when China banned it, or tried to ban it.
Yeah, the dip in the hash rate, and for 2 weeks or so, and then back to the 2 weeks dip, and then back to the all-time highs, and now we have, I think it's more than 600 exahashes now. So I heard it's a peak again, always all-time high.
Yeah, hash rate, you can post the chart every day with an all-time high. It seems like.
Yeah, right. Yeah, but it's by design. It's interesting. Even if hash rate goes down for some reason, China disallows mining, and US is currently the biggest mining country. But even if they would disallow to do mining with Bitcoin, others will pop up even with old hardware and continue enabling the network, and this is exciting.
Yeah, definitely. Speaking of exciting, what do you think is like the most exciting news that will come out? And of course you don't know, but what do you think is the most exciting news that will come out in the next few years? Or what are you looking forward in Bitcoin that will probably happen in the next 1, 2, 3 years of stuff we already know, of stuff that we might not know? What do you expect Bitcoin being in the next couple of years?
Yeah. So we had the ETFs. We will have other ETFs, ETNs. I heard yesterday or the day before came news about London and Hong Kong, which are really huge financial markets, also offering ETFs. So institutional or ETF, you can also invest as a small investor, or you can invest $200 in an ETF. So it's not only the bigger ones, but the bigger ones create the biggest volumes. And the retail market will jump in one day, a little bit later, the pension funds. So this is something where I see huge traction. We will have the FASB, so the accounting rules with the balance sheets for optimizing having crypto. Of course, we focus on Bitcoin in the balance sheet for companies in US, which will definitely be a push end of this year. We'll have the smaller financial advisors jumping into the ETFs, but I also see, especially in the bull market, creating new business models, creating new businesses, and using Bitcoin more for payments. That will be a huge push, and I see this coming with new businesses, new business models that will be all around adoption of Bitcoins in some way, and also new technologies like optimizing Lightning or Arc or other payment layers. So I see that there are things coming, making the handling of Bitcoin much easier. Like Strike from Jack Mallers. So you can discuss whether this is really Bitcoin, but it uses Bitcoin. So if you say, hey, I want to send 100 euros to my aunt in Japan, I put in Strike, I put 100 euros, and it's converting to Bitcoin in real time and converting in Japanese yen again, and my aunt can get this Japanese yen in the same second, and it's using Bitcoin, but it's ease of use, and this is important for people who are afraid of handling their seed phrase. What is about if I lose my hardware wallet in a boating accident? Of course, so an insider. But yeah, this is something. Ease of use is very much important. But I see this will come over the time, and that will lead to adoption. So this is the major topics I would say I see.
It's interesting that I think Bitcoin as the payment networks is still not discussed enough. We always speak of the asset. We always speak of Bitcoin, number go up technology of the asset. And nobody can take it away from you. This is like really highly discussed. But Bitcoin, the network, it's something that will come up in the next like 5-10 years, especially with like the layer technologies making payments easier, making payments better, making extremely good applications on top of it, which makes it also good. And this leads me to the end routine. We have an end routine in the podcast where the previous guest is asking a question for the next guest, and it's a cool question, and it's kind of connected to the payments. Which year do you think will be the last merchants accepting Visa or Mastercard payments, or like not accepting Visa and Mastercard payments?
Got it. 2045. So 20 years from now.
2045.
Yeah, we will have a change in the currency, I think, in the euro and the dollar. I don't believe they will survive very long now. Maybe they could crash and be replaced by something, and Visa credit card transactions, maybe 20 years.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I think I usually ask the question like, when will fiat die?
Yeah.
And there's different answers to that question. My biggest question that is still coming out, but when this is coming out, this will come out, is, I think, who was it, Lau, who said it will only survive the next 3 years. And he gave his theory on why only 3 years. There are also people, Bitcoiner, they're saying, "Oh, no, it will will live on for 100 years. We will not live to that." But it's interesting. Most Bitcoiners are saying between 10 and 30 years. I think like this is the range most people go.
Also, if I was wondering, what is a credit card? So, if happens what I just pointed out, what could happen is that we replace the euro with something else, another currency, the euro 2 or whatever, then a credit card can remain. But if we change from euro 2 to Bitcoin, maybe also the credit card will somehow survive, but the currency is not euro or euro 2, it's Bitcoin then. So then I have some lightning card. It looks like a credit card, and it's connected to an app. I forgot the name, coin something, and it's also like a credit card. But if we talk credit cards in fiat money, and then I would say 20 years, hopefully less, way less.
Especially, of course, like MasterCard can also say like, "Oh, we're seeing fiat going. So let's switch to Bitcoin. Let's find a way how we can embrace Bitcoin on our cards and make Bitcoin payments possible all around the world."
Transition to Bitcoin. Then this is what I meant. Yeah, right.
Perfect. Then thank you, Larry, for being on. For people that want to ask you questions, is there any way they can reach out to you? Is there any profile you want to be like, "Oh, if you have questions, ask me there"?
Yeah, of course. You can mention my Twitter handle. Twitter, I'm a Bitcoiner on Twitter, but with a special writing with some numbers in it. Not sure you can put it in the notes somewhere. That would be the easiest way, I would say.
Perfect. Then thank you, Larry, and I'm hoping to see this video of you orange pilling your board members of the company.
Okay.
Yeah, bye.
Let's stay connected. Cheers. Bye bye.